ahead, Mark.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. It's July 16th, 2026. My name is Mike Kelly. I'm the Chair of the Board of County Commissioners for Johnson County, Kansas, and we are here for today's meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. At this time, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner Brewer.
Brewer here.
Commissioner Hanslick is absent. Commissioner Ashcraft.
Here.
Commissioner Allen Brand.
Allen Brand, aye.
Chairman
Very-
Kelly.
I am here as well. Thank you very much. We have a quorum and therefore a duly constituted meeting. If you would also join me and stand as you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we know how to lower our monitors? My monitor is like huge.
But watch your mic, it's on. Thank you all very much. You can see there's been some improvements to the room here, so we're still adjusting a little bit with the technology. If there's any delays today, thank you very much for your patience. In that same vein of asking for patience, if you have joined us here today in person, welcome. We're glad to have you here. Would you check your cell phone or any other noise-making device that you may have brought with you and ensure that it is silenced? We sure appreciate that cooperation, as we're going to start today with the public comment portion of the agenda. This is an opportunity for folks to discuss county items with the board assembled. We ask that folks register in advance with the general public comment session. If folks want to discuss an action item that's on today's agenda, we ask that they register with that action item and that they refrain during this general public comment session from discussing any action items that appear later on today's agenda. When it's your turn and you are called to the dais, we ask that you state your name and the community in which you reside. The comments are limited to 2 minutes. There's a clock on either side of the dais that'll assist you with that time period. If you happen to go beyond that 2-minute time period, we're going to give you an opportunity to conclude your comments at that time. We do ask that members of the public refrain from remarks that are offensive, impertinent, profane, slanderous, anything that would insult or demean any person or groups of persons. If we happen to get into that kind of public comment, we are going to ask you to refrain. If it continues, we'll ask that you step aside from the dais. We do allow public comments virtually. I think we had one switch from an in-person to a virtual public commenter, but we're going to take that last, I understand, in my conversation with the clerk. So we'll start with the list of in-person public commenters in the order that they registered, starting with Neil Huckman.
I am Neil Heckman, and I live in Olathe, Kansas, and I'm here on behalf of Good Faith Network. In May 2008, the Housing Task Force of Johnson County released the Housing Choices Report. It said the county studied housing challenges in 2004 and already knew tens of thousands of households were struggling. It projected that number would grow from about 50,000 households in 2010 to 60,000 in 2015. 18 years ago, they were already predicting the housing crisis of today, and the number one recommendation was incentive funding for current housing challenges, including a county housing trust fund. So my question is simple. How many affordable units have been built in the last 18 years? The figure's hard to find, but if we built 400 affordable units every year, it would take 150 years to approach the level of need the county's report identified. Even at 1,000 units a year, it would take 60 years. So we have to stop congratulating ourselves on 2 or 3 units, especially when homelessness is up 27% in 1 year. The county cannot create housing at this scale and rate that we need alone, but the county can set the pace. You can stop treating this like a slow-moving inconvenience and start treating it like the emergency that it is. You are on a possible path with a revolving loan fund. That's a decent start. but even another week is too long to wait to approve it. And a revolving loan fund without ongoing funding will not meet the scale of this crisis. Even at 1,000 units a year, some people would still be waiting for 60 years. So we can't afford to wait. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe Cassie Woolworth was online, or at least indicated she would be online. We're going to skip her for right now. We'll go to Morgan Knight.
Good morning. My name is Morgan Knight, and I am Shawnee, Kansas. Good morning. My name is Morgan Knight, and I am Hunter's mom. Today I stand before you because my son cannot. Hunter is one of the happiest little boys you'll ever meet. He's autistic and nonverbal, so he cannot tell you what it feels like to be misunderstood. So today I have the privilege and the responsibility of being his voice. I've never imagined I'd have to approve my son deserves to belong, but here I am. No parent imagines they'll spend their nights reading disability laws instead of bedtime stories, or documenting incidents instead of making memories, or wondering if their child will be welcome somewhere simply because they experience the world differently. Hunter has a disability. He doesn't need to be fixed to have the same opportunity as others. What we have experienced with JCPRD summer camp has opened my eyes. I have had to fight for reasonable accommodations, for inclusion, and the opportunity for Hunter to participate alongside his peers. And I've experienced setbacks that no family should have to face. This journey has taught me something I've never expected to learn. Just because an agency has always done something a certain way doesn't mean it's right. I'm sharing our story because this just isn't about one little boy. It's about every child with a disability who deserves dignity, opportunity, and a fair chance to belong. I'm not giving up, not for Hunter and not for the families that come after us, because inclusion shouldn't depend on how hard a parent is willing to fight. I understand JCPRD has its own board, but every system of leadership begins somewhere, and with leadership carries responsibility. I'm asking you to help change the culture that allowed this to happen, so the next child is understood instead of punished, supported instead of excluded in every program in Johnson County. I don't want another family to stand where I'm standing today. I hope that Hunter and others will remember one day how hard Johnson County leadership and their community fought for them.
Thank you very much. We have Miss Cassie Woolworth here.
I thought it was on mine.
Oh, God, I'm sorry. My goodness. Literally just ran here. Hang on. Okay. All righty. I'm not tall. Good morning, commissioners. I do want to say, Cassie Woolworth, Johnson County, hi again. I know taxes are high, but property tax relief was supposed to come from the state and our elected representatives. We keep sending Republicans for 25 years to the state, and I would really like some property tax relief. Maybe we could change that. I love Johnson County not because it's perfect, but because we never stop working to make it better. Johnson County is consistently recognized as one of the best places in America to live, and that's no accident. It's the result of leaders who believe good government means investing in people. Thank you to the Board of County Commissioners for making your vision, dedication, and commitment to making this community a great community where everyone belongs. Thank you for supporting one of the finest library systems in the country. Our libraries are more important than the books. They're places where children discover a love of reading, job seekers build new skills, and entrepreneurs grow businesses. Neighbors come together. Thank you for investing in community services that support families, mental health, affordable housing, public health, and programs that help people make it through life's toughest moments. Thank you for honoring our seniors, ensuring they can age with dignity, independence, and respect. Thank you for embracing diversity. Johnson County is stronger because we welcome people from every background, including our LGBTQIA neighbors. Everyone deserves to feel safe, respected, and valued here. Thank you for preparing our community to welcome the world during FIFA. This is an incredible opportunity to showcase Johnson County's hospitality and businesses and the welcoming spirit that defines us. We love Johnson County because the values we share. There are several BOCCs up for re-election. Mike Kelly and Becky Fast. I want to keep Johnson County the way it's going, growing, and I love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Woolworth. I would caution, we don't do campaigning from the dais. While I appreciate it, that's keeping it fair for everybody. We don't do political statements from the dais, but thank you so much. I believe that concludes public comment for today. We'll move on at this time to notes for the record. A couple notes for the record today. Thank you very much all for your patience. First, I'll be signing the following. First is 3 full releases of easements from Johnson County wastewater due to the removal of sanitary sewer line. 2 in the vicinity of West 83rd Street and Cedar Niles Road. 1 in the vicinity of West 83rd and Mize Road, all in the city of Lenexa. Additionally, I'll be signing 2 full releases of easements for Johnson County wastewater due to the removal of sanitary sewer line, both in the vicinity of 79th Street and Mize Road, Lenexa. Third, I'll be signing an agreement with the city of Olathe approved in the Stormwater Management Program expenditures packet for the Household Hazardous Wastewater Program, or Household Hazardous Waste Program, excuse me. At this time, we'll move on to our business agenda. There's a consent agenda of routine items that is prepared for us. At this time, I'd ask if there's any member of the board who would like to move to approve the consent agenda. Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Chair. I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Brewer, second.
So moved by Commissioner Myers, seconded by Commissioner Brewer. Would the clerk call the roll on the consent agenda, please?
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner Brewer.
Brewer, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen Brand.
Allen Brand, aye.
Chairman Kelly.
Aye. We have 6 in favor and none against. Is that consistent with your count?
It is.
Okay, very good. We'll move on at this time to the action agenda, starting with what is number 13 on your agenda. This is authorizing the purchase of vehicle upfitting services and related equipment through competitively solicited contracts. For the Sheriff's Office, Brian Seidler is here to present the item. Brian, welcome back.
Thank you. Good morning. This item is a request for authority to exceed the $150,000 purchasing threshold for vehicle upfitting equipment and services. As you know, in an amount, not to exceed amount of $500,000 per year through July of 2029. As you know, the Sheriff's Office purchases vehicles and then must upfit them with aftermarket equipment for things, to add things like lights, sirens, radios, et cetera, to make them patrol ready. This has historically been done by third-party vendors to conduct these builds. Last year, a similar item was brought before the board to allow for purchases over $150,000 with the vendor based out of Wichita. Since then, turnaround times have increased and additional costs have been added for pickup and delivery of vehicles. This has caused us to change vendors and go with KCOM, which has a local shop here in Olathe. With this change comes the need to spend $150,000 with the new vendor, which is why we're doing this again. What also happened last year was that the Sheriff's Office reclassified an existing position to create an in-house upfitter to handle the building of new vehicles. This was done to combat the increasing costs and increasingly slow turnaround times for new vehicle build completions. However, having this service available in-house does not negate the need to spend over $150,000 for vehicle upfitting because we still have to purchase the equipment even if we build them ourselves. The equipment must be purchased from an authorized distributor, and KCOM is that distributor for the brand of emergency equipment that we use. So whether we need assistance with vehicle builds or simply purchase the equipment to build them ourselves, we still need to spend over $150,000 to outfit the necessary number of vehicles each year, so this will be an ongoing issue. While the main vendor is KCOM, the way this item is being presented will allow us to use any vendor that's part of a competitive contract to ensure we get the best price for the equipment and services needed. So despite some of the confusing nature of this item, at the heart of the matter is simply the authority to spend more than $150,000 on upfitting services and equipment to allow us to put new patrol cars on the street. There's no obligation to spend any amount with any vendor, and no additional funding is being requested because funds for this are already included in the sheriff's budget. If I can anticipate a couple of your questions, the reason that this is going out until 2029 is because that timeframe aligns with the current state of Kansas contract that is for vehicle upfitting. So this will get us out through the end of that contract without having to have any further board action. The $500,000 amount is, allows us to build out the number of vehicles that we have in a given year, and also allows for some room to grow, both for future cost increases and should future RERs allow us to purchase more vehicles, then can be accommodated in-house, and we have to seek assistance from outside vendors. So hopefully that will clarify any of the questions that you have. If not, I can stand for any additional questions.
Brian, thanks very much. Appreciate you. And Sheriff, thank you very much for being here. We're always glad to have you. You anticipate a couple of my questions. Can I dive in a little bit on,
Sure.
on those? You talk about a state contract going out through 2029. The purchases you'd still make would be on an as-needed basis, an annual basis, not necessarily a purchase for 3 years, right?
Correct. Whatever, depending on the number of vehicles that we have, or any, sometimes we have accidents or needs that cause us to need more vehicles than anticipated. And so however many vehicles we might need to purchase in a given year, or depending on what, if we have RERs that allow us to purchase more vehicles than typical, then we would be able to get those done, and then however many vehicles that it might be in a given year. But this would be for each individual year based on the individual year budget.
I appreciate that you brought in-house some of these services. I think that's great. Is there maybe desire is not the fair word, but at least a review of whether or not you expand that in-house program or combine with our fleet facilities in some way to provide efficiency?
Yes, we're actually looking right now at the possibility of bringing on a contractor to help assist with some of that, to help turn around the vehicles a little bit quicker. And then we also have, I think this market, there's more demand for vehicle builds than the current market can handle. And so there's new companies literally popping up all the time. We met with one just a couple of days ago that's looking to expand in Kansas City and may be available for, if they can become part of a future contract, might be another option for us. And so we're constantly looking at that, trying to make sure we get the best price and be able to turn the cars around as quickly as possible in whatever means that may require.
No, I just encourage you and appreciate your willingness to consider that efficiency if it's available. As we move forward here, we want to be as effective in the use of facilities as possible, and when multiple departments can potentially utilize a shared facility, that can be effective. I'm not going to hog all the questions. I welcome others to jump in, or I can keep going. Commissioner Ashcraft?
Well, Mr. Chair, you were doing quite well. Maybe build a little bit on what you were saying, Mr. Seidler. I'm wanting to make sure I understand the vendor selection process as written here. I'm not quite sure I'm tracking with it. It sounds like the intent is to establish what I would call a vendor pool in which to, depending on what the upfit need is, go to those vendors and see who's available and who has the best pricing at any given time. Is that generally, am I interpreting what you're saying correctly?
Yes, there can be multiple vendors that are part of the state contract, so we can ensure that the pricing is fair and competitive. And then depending on what their workload is and how fast they may be able to turn around a car, then we'd be able to go out with a different vendor. We are limited by the brand of equipment that we use. Certain vendors are specialize in different brands than ours, and so we would be limited by that. But we're able to this way go out and seek services for both price competitiveness and turnaround time.
Okay, so on that point, how do we assure the best value in that selection process? Is that something that's done within the sheriff's department, or is purchasing involved in that somehow? To make sure it's at an arm's length relationship and that the best prices is sought.
We're looking at vendors that are part of the state contract, so that competitiveness is kind of vetted through that process, and so they are part of a state of Kansas contract specifically for vehicle upfitting. So that is done at that level. But purchasing also reviews all of our requests.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Brewer?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Seidler, a couple questions for you. In the funding overview, it says that the funding for the uplifting of vehicles is included in the sheriff's budget and no additional funding is being requested. So help me understand that just a little bit better on a couple fronts. One is in the budget that is going to be the currently active budget, were you already anticipating up to $500,000 of uplifting costs? And therefore have budgeted as such? Or is it that you have funding in the budget that can be moved and dedicated to this? Go into a deeper dive on when it states that it's already in the budget. How is it already in the budget?
Yeah, good question. The amount there's a fixed amount that comes in for vehicles, and we this year established an equipment reserve. So now when we have, say, vehicles that go to auction, we're able to self-fund that fund a little bit by the sale of those vehicles, and so we're continuously funding the equipment reserve to be able to allow for the purchase and upfitting of vehicles. We're able to pay for the upfitting out of the equipment reserve, so we can use that fund for that. Every year, we get a fixed amount for the budget for vehicles. It includes the upfitting in that total. And so based on the amount that we receive, we're able to purchase and upfit X number of vehicles in a year. And so while we may not have $500,000 a year specifically for the upfitting of vehicles, we wanted to create some additional room for future RARs and for cost increases over the next couple of years as we go on. Again, there's no obligation to spend that much, and we would have to live within our means. We could choose to absorb and purchase more vehicles in a given year and allocate more funds to that and save it somewhere else, but we don't necessarily have that much allocated this year per se, but there's no obligation to spend that much, and we would just live within our means for whatever needs are for the given year.
So I want to make sure I clearly understand what you just shared with me. So you may not have that full amount in the particular line item. So if you didn't, you would just live within, even if it's below what you need, or would you reallocate from different line items in your budget to backfill this?
Potentially both, just depending on what the circumstances were and where we were at with the budget in a given year and what the vehicle needs are. But again, there's no obligation to spend $500. We just wanted to put a cap on there so that there was a reasonable threshold to stop. But that doesn't mean that we have to spend that much. If we don't have that much, then if something happened and we had to go that high and we didn't have that money, we would have to come back and ask for additional funds to be able to do that. So we don't intend to do that. We intend to live within our means and spend or absorb elsewhere within the budget to be able to get to that level. And we've been working with the budget office real closely, and there's an additional one-time RAR that's in the proposed budget for next year to help us get through some of the vehicle challenges. And so as those things come up, we would allocate the appropriate amount of money for vehicle upfitting.
I appreciate that. Candidly, what I'm struggling a little bit with on this particular issue, we have had before us a number of instances where there's been an exception to our cap of $150,000 is when business comes to us for approval. And typically those action items have been a one-off, a one-time. This is a go-forward through 2029. And so I feel like that starts to touch into overall policy as far as for the Board of County Commissioners, what's the appropriate expenditure amount when it needs to come before the Board of County Commissioners. And so I feel like this action item is actually setting precedent for a bigger policy discussion that I think should and needs to be had. But I don't know if it should or need to be had on this particular action item setting that precedent. My other question for you is, we talk about the alternatives. And in the alternatives, it talks about the $150,000 threshold would limit the ability to purchase necessary public safety equipment and cause unnecessary delays in adding new patrol vehicles to the fleet. I'm going to push back on that interpretation just a little bit, because knowing that you do a shared state contract, know that you've brought some of your uplifting services in-house, know that you have limited vendors and who can do this work, I have to believe that, and knowing that you guys, I appreciate the level of professionalism and the level of preparedness that you go into your budgeting cycle with, knowing what your needs are in an anticipatory way. So I don't necessarily feel this change hinders what is already efficient approach to doing business. It's just bundling those and bringing to us as early as possible so it does not cause any delays. So I'm struggling with the policy implication, and I'm struggling a little bit with the alternative interpretation, because I do feel that you have the capacity and you have a very set circumstances that put you in a position of doing some advanced planning, anticipation, purchasing, and preparing.
Go ahead, Brian, if you want to.
Sure. So I understand where you're coming from on that. The problem with it is that the equipment alone is about $20,000 a car. And so we quickly get to the $150,000 threshold, and so that's where the need to exceed it comes in. And so to be able to keep the fleet young enough where we're not having older cars or cars with 150,000 miles on them that are subject to breaking down, we need to turn the fleet around quicker than we have been able to. And so we've been working closely with budget to try to get additional funding for vehicles so that we can do that, but that also comes with the need to update the cars because they don't come pre-built that way. So being able to have enough room to be able to crank out the number of cars, so to speak, that we need to in a given year to be able to keep the fleet turning over is the crux of the problem. It is going to cost more than $150,000 to do the number of vehicles that we need to in a given year. And that's before we ask for any assistance, because we have so many cars to build that we can't handle it all ourselves, and we ask for a vendor to help with that, then the cost is even higher because then we have to pay for labor. So the issue is really just the magnitude of the expense is going to quickly get to $150,000, and so we're just looking for that to be kind of a given. We all understand and agree that that's a necessary expense, that we have to put new patrol cars on the street every year, and so that we have the ability to do that going forward.
Hold on.
Do a follow? Okay.
We've got to keep it
Yep.
fair. Commissioner Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two questions. The first is an incidental one, and then one I'd like to build on what I think Commissioner Brewer was going after, at least some further discussion. The incidental question is, the reallocated position, was that a civilian or sworn position?
Civilian.
I would have thought, but I just wanted to make sure. All right. The question that Commissioner Brewer's interest spiked is, what are the relative merits or otherwise of going through some kind of Johnson County specific RFP process to make sure we have a good cost comparison of these issues? I realize the competitive or the cooperative contracts are a useful tool, but when we start to creep up in these dollars, given Johnson County's unique status in terms of the number of vehicles and the types, have we looked at the RFP process, and why did we choose not to pursue that for the long term?
I don't believe that has been considered in the past. It might be worth looking into. I worry about the ability of the limited number of qualified shops to do this work. Like they're literally drilling holes in the roofs of cars to be able to put wires through, and so if you don't have a quality shop that's doing this, then your cars will be back for warranty work, and the build quality will suffer. So I'd be worried a little bit about the number of people that are available to do that type of work that could commit to doing our number of vehicles, but I think it's worth looking into.
Thank you.
So I think we're wading a little bit into the theoretical idea of RFPs or cooperative contracts. With a larger pool, you get potentially a better rate. Also, there's a temporal aspect when we're talking about trying to keep our vehicle fleet young. So we can go down that road, but I think that kind of builds on the policy question that you were asking earlier, which is a broader conversation than we'll be able to have with this particular item today. I guess maybe to find a middle ground there, Brian, when we're looking at, you're asking for this to go through 2029 and not exceed 500,000. Is there a ground where you and the sheriff may be comfortable for the next year and put it at 250, 300, give you the bandwidth that you need for this year, and then work together with us to try to help as we allow ourselves this more time to have this philosophical question, but also look for partnership as it may come with either RARs for, in-house persons or collaboration with other departments. Is there a middle ground there?
Of course, we did, the previous item that we did with the vendor out of Wichita, we did for $350,000, which was approved last year. So that amount might be sufficient to get us through, if we were to do it through, say, 2027 instead. We could likely get by with that amount. That's what we previously did. We do have a one-time RAR for vehicle purchases, which would include the upfitting in 2027 proposed budget. So that amount could potentially go a little higher. We've got 6 cars sitting in our parking lot right now waiting to be upfitted. And so whatever new vehicles we buy on top of that is just going to backlog that need. So 350 might get us by through 2027.
Okay. Just food for thought and discussion here. Commissioner Myers, you hadn't had a chance yet.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to, my comment was going to be that I think I realize the uniqueness of this situation. And I do understand the concerns from the policy standpoint, but so much of this depends not only because it's something unique as far as upfitting vehicles, but it's also timing. I think that the timing and sometimes going through the processes, again, I think one of the reasons this request is being made is to help the timing of being able to get vehicles and have them complete and ready to be able to be used in an efficient manner, and sometimes going through this process as quickly as what they would have to turn around could affect the timing of those vehicles being able to be put on the street. So I'm like Commissioner Brewer. I have some struggles, but at the same time, I think I understand the uniqueness enough to be okay today in agreeing to what's being asked and being what we would need to do.
If it helps for context, we're already at $150,000 for the year. Saw an additional $100,000 exception earlier in the year, and are holding on POs pending this decision so that we can continue upfitting cars the remainder of the year.
No, we need to get something done for you today. I understand that. Commissioner Brewer?
So what I'm a little bit confused about, candidly, is we talk about this 150,000 as though it's a spending limit, and it's not. It's just the 150,000 threshold is just when you have to come to the Board of County Commissioners for the approval of the expenditure. So I'm going to go back to, I do not feel the policy limits you from outfitting the number of vehicles at whatever that estimated cost is. It's just a process of coming through this process first and then signing off on the contracts and having the work be done. So I would be more comfortable if we were going to do this more as a one-time expenditure. I'm not necessarily looking for the $350,000 cap on that. I'm just looking for the chance to have policy catch up with this. Once again, because it's multi-year, I feel like it's setting a precedent on policy, and I'd like to have the chance to have the policy question so that the go forward can be reflecting what policy is, not the action dictating what policy should be. So that's where yeah, and I get a little confused because you said you've already hit your $150,000 cap. Well, this is not limiting you to be able to only expend $150,000 on this type of work. It's just when it's $150,000, above $150,000 bill, there's that pre-approval process, so.
Yeah, and I don't know if that could be, I don't know that I know the answer to this. Does that mean then that every new vehicle we'd have to come back? I think that would be an exercise in inefficiency to have to do that at every vehicle, because we could have an accident tomorrow and have to buy a new vehicle and upfit that vehicle. And then, if we had to come back, that would unnecessarily delay us being able to get new patrol cars out. So I think having an understanding of a cap where we would have to come back if we exceeded that would be, I think, easier for us if there was, unless you.
May I just like
Sure.
to, I guess there's a difference in how we're understanding this, because from my perspective is you build a budget, and in that budget, you anticipate how many vehicles in a given year you're gonna need to do this work to. And so bringing it all forward as one budget item for the year, for approval, it gets you the same thing. You can come forward with a $500,000 expenditure because you gotta do 10 vehicles at whatever that works out to be at $22,000 a vehicle. And then it's been approved, it's been as one action item, and now you go forward and do the work. So I'm still not understanding how we're limiting your ability to get those vehicles done. It's just a planning and timing issue, making sure that the cost in the budget gets approved, and then you go forward and the work gets done. So maybe I'm missing something, and I apologize if I am.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to explain it. From our standpoint, we just, we've got a fixed amount of money that's allocated every year for vehicles, which allows us to conceptually purchase and upfit a finite number of vehicles. If we have a need that goes beyond that, we can move money from another area. We can use different funds to make sure that we get the number of vehicles that are needed. And so that budgeted amount may not be sufficient for what the need is in a given year. I think we've asked for RARs for vehicles for the last several years because it's that amount is not enough to get the number of vehicles that we need. And so the actual number from year to year could vary and be different from what we thought it was going to be 18 months prior when we set that budget.
I'm going to go back. I feel like we're talking at two different angles. To me, this is an approval cap or an expenditure cap. And an approval cap is what we're talking about because you indicated you have the money in the budget, even if you have to move it around. It's just when you have to come to get the approval to expend the money. So I guess I'm looking at it from a different perspective. So thank you.
Commissioner Fast.
Yeah, so if you needed additional cars last year in your budget, then this year's budget should accommodate that. I guess I'm not understanding then why your budget isn't having that leeway, for those additional vehicles. I mean, I have some concerns through 29. That's a long time. I would go for the 2027. To me, you're coming back, and providing us information on your situation. I think it helps you too, for us to be aware of that you need more cars than you budgeted, and and I guess I'm not willing to change that 150,000. I'm willing to have an exception, but to 2027, the middle ground.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Sibling, I think I understand where you're coming from. It's hard to predict when a vehicle could be in some sort of a car race or a car chase where you may have an accident. It's hard to predict, even when you have a capital improvement plan, when a vehicle may go down. And I think what you're trying to do, anytime you go out for to get a cost on a vehicle, it can fluctuate in cost. So I think what you're trying to do is predict ahead when you can't predict when those vehicles need to be fixed. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yes, I'm sorry, the sheriff was talking to me. Could you repeat the last part?
Sure. So I think what you're trying to do, because you cannot, because you cannot predict, you have a capital improvement plan, and you know that you're going to have to do so many vehicles, but you cannot predict when something can happen to that. you cannot predict when a motor may go out. You can't predict when a vehicle may be involved in a crash. So when you go out to get a bid for a vehicle, they fluctuate in such a wide range, because this is also a specialized car that has to be made to fit the needs of the sheriff's department. So I think what you're trying to do is plan ahead. You can't spend any more money, but I could see where you would, I could see where you would need this. So I guess I'm coming from a different perspective of just because of the cost and trying to stay ahead of things. Am I guessing that right?
Yes, I think all those things are true, and I think it also has to do with the ability to turn those cars around. So if we may our budget may allow us to purchase 6 new patrol vehicles from when the manufacturer opens a window in November for the upcoming year's builds. We build 6 new cars. Those cars come in sometime in June of the next year, and then we have 6 cars sitting in our parking lot that need to be upfitted before they can replace a car that's on the street. And so we can only do 1 car at a time in-house, and it's going to take a month to get it done. And so we may seek assistance from another vendor to try to turn those cars around quicker, because in years where we've been able to purchase many vehicles or the budget was allowed for us to purchase 10 vehicles, 15 vehicles at a time, then those cars sit there for upwards of a year waiting to get upfitted to be able to be functional back into the fleet. And so if we can have a higher purchasing threshold to be able to use additional companies to help build out those cars, that we can purchase the equipment to build them ourselves now that we've increased that capacity internally. We just need to be able to purchase the equipment and services to be able to get those cars turned around so they can be functional.
So Chairman, I just to add, I totally understand the fleet and where you're coming from, because in my company, we purchased fleet vans. And I understand what you're saying, and I understand the flexibility that you need. And I feel comfortable and I would support this. I totally understand what you're trying to do.
Sheriff.
Yes, thank you for the comments, and all of this are great comments about a situation that we have. I think the chair hit on something earlier when you asked about our capacity to do this. If we had in-house, some of the bigger agencies do have in-house, and so they don't have to go out to bid to these other companies, and there's very limited number of companies, only about 3. One of them just left the area, so really it's down to really 2. But if we had in-house, we wouldn't be here now, but we just don't have that capacity right now. If we had 4 or 5 of our own outfitters in-house, we wouldn't have to be doing this. We could just purchase this equipment. But the cost of the equipment and having other companies do it, so we don't have the vehicles sitting in the parking lot for 6 months, that's causing us to be here today.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple of comments, Mr. Chair, but the last one would be to ask you to restate the compromise suggestion you had. But before you get there, what I'm struggling with a little bit are the policy and process implications of this. Commissioner Brewer, I think, has pointed out some of those questions. And I'm looking at the briefing sheet, and it says that we estimate about 12 vehicles a year. So it's about $40,000, a little bit over $40,000 a vehicle for that $500,000 to cover it. And Sheriff, when you talk about needing 4 or 5 outfitters, I don't necessarily see that as a viable option unless you're doing a lot of other things. So I'm struggling with that, and I want to be supportive, but Mr. Chairman, I'm tending to appreciate your compromise position of having a 1-year window here so we can have a more thoughtful consider it, because I feel like we're spinning a little bit, and I'm just not getting it to the level that I would be comfortable with, although I want to be supportive.
The $40,000, that's just the cost of the vehicle itself. That's not including any equipment. That's not including any labor if you have to take it outside, which we normally do to get it on the street.
Well, I'm just taking the math of 500,000 divided by 12. So.
So, Brian, Sheriff, appreciating the level of conversation we've had here today, and obviously the interest in having a more policy-based conversation moving forward in the years. Would you be comfortable enough with authorizing the amount not to exceed of $350,000 through July 15th of '27? Is that what I understood you said would be amenable?
I think that would certainly get us by much better than the 150 will, yes. And I might just ask if it could go through 2027.
Through December 31st of 2027?
Yes.
Okay. So then I move to authorize the purchase of vehicle upfitting services and related equipment through competitively solicited contracts in an annual amount not to exceed $350,000 through December 31st, 2027. And that, seconded by Commissioner Ashcraft. And appreciating your all's patience with us here today, but also understanding the future conversations that we'll have are meant in good faith to try to give you guys operational capacity while also trying to be efficient and effective. Commissioner Burr.
I appreciate the amended motion that was made and seconded. You know, candidly, I'd be fine leaving it at the $500,000 through December 31st of 2027. From my perspective, it would allow, it give you a ceiling that hopefully you wouldn't hit. It would allow us to know what your real costs look like in a given year, and that to me would help inform policy going forward. So I don't know if I have support of the rest of the body, but that's kind of where my head is I want to know what real costs are in a given year. I want to know if 500,000 is going to be a potential recommended ceiling policy going forward, how that fits into the real cost environment that we're dealing with. And so it gives me a runway to test that while I'm having the conversation and making an informed decision of what go forward policy looks like. So that's kind of where my thought is. Everything, I'm supportive of the motion made and the amendment to it. I mean, the second to it, my only suggestion is I don't know if I need to bring it down to that 350 or if I feel comfortable leaving it at the 500 just to see what those real costs end up with and how many vehicles get completed.
You did hit the nail on the head. The idea with the 500,000 was to have it be a ceiling that we would not hit. That's exactly right, the concept.
Is there further discussion on that or other topics as it relates to this item? Commissioner Myers.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I understand where you're coming from, and I think that would be a good and reasonable route to take. I am worried that the 350 threshold doesn't give us a true understanding, because I think the Sheriff's Department could come back and state that, again, we really needed this much more funding to get through whatever, for whatever reasons or situations that arise. And so I'm comfortable with that adjustment also. And then that allows us to be able to have that policy discussion and have better understanding of where the needs actually fit, and for us to be able to move forward from a policy standpoint also.
Well, I won't belabor it. It's an amount not to exceed. You think you're going to spend maybe 350, but if something were to arise, I don't want the Sheriff's Department to be hamstrung any more than anybody else on this dais. So if you want to make your amendment.
So I'd like to offer an amendment to the motion that the amended amount would not to exceed 500,000 as opposed to the stated motion not to exceed 350,000. Do you need me to state the whole motion? Legal?
No, just how about a friendly amendment?
A friendly amendment to move that number from 350 to 5.
Thank you, Michael.
Myers,
Makes sense.
second.
Okay, so the motion now goes through December 31st, 2027 at an amount of 500,000. Does everybody understand the motion that's pending? Any further discussion or questions regarding the motion pending? If not, would the clerk call the roll on the motion?
Commissioner Fest,
Aye.
Commissioner Myers,
Myers, aye.
Commissioner Brewer,
Brewer, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft,
Yes.
Commissioner Allen Brand,
Allen Brand, aye.
Chairman Kelly.
Aye, that's 6 in favor and none against. Is that consistent with your count?
It is.
Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. We'll see you back again soon. Now on to what's marked as item number 14. For this item, out of an abundance of caution, I'll be recusing myself and Commissioner Myers will be running the item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This item is the board sitting as the governing body of Consolidated Fire District Number 1. County Manager Penny Post Oak Ferguson will be handling this issue, I believe. This item.
No, Jim Francis.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chief.
Good morning, Commissioners. So Consolidated Fire District Number 1 uses the services of Bucati Companies as the broker for health, dental, life, and vision insurance with a renewal date of August 1st each year. So we've been working with Bucati and the preliminary, and I should state the fire district is currently with Cigna and Principal. So the fire district's been working with Bucati, and Bucati's initial price quotes came back nearly 30%. It got adjusted down to just below 20% for our renewal. That took into consideration bundling the vision and the dental with the health with Cigna and keeping the life insurance separate with Principal. Multiple other carriers were looked at. They ranged from nearly 16% increase to nearly 21% increase, but there were significant changes to the plan documents, which were going to shift financial costs back to the employees. This renewal that's being proposed keeps the same plan document. All of the existing plan documents remain the same for this dental and health and vision with no changes. I should indicate that this matter was taken before the advisory board on July the 2nd, and the advisory board recommended that this body approve this. So I stand for questions. One other thing I should note, I've been working with Brent Christensen to find and to explore other options. Last year, the fire district received a nearly 30% increase in insurance. This coming renewal is nearly 20%. We've had to increase our line item for health, dental, life, vision, nearly $450,000 in the next year's budget. We have explored the possibility of coming under the county's umbrella for the last few years. The costs have been deemed too high for us to make that bridge a couple of years ago. We're narrowing the gap there. That's being explored again right now. If this is approved, this is a one-year term, but it can be terminated at any month. And the desire would be that if the county, if it makes sense, financial sense to come under the county's plan, we would do that January 1st and terminate this existing plan. But that information is still being gathered and we don't know what that looks like.
Commissioners, I don't have the technology at my desk, so if you have questions, you'll need to raise hands. Thank you. Commissioner Brewer?
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer. I think my only question really is, what is the employee-employer split on it?
The employee-employer split, the department has historically paid 100% of the employees' healthcare costs. The split is 75% on all other employee, child, employee, spouse, and family. It's 75% funded by the fire district.
So 100% for employee, and then 75% if the employee chooses a employee
Correct.
plus one or employee plus family option?
Correct. Correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Francis, I know you are as perplexed by these cost increases as we all are. 50% in 2 years is unfortunate. Many would say that is not the end to the increases. I appreciate your synopsis, your attempts to work with the county to incorporate with Mr. Christensen. Has there been any conversation to expand that beyond just the county to include maybe other fire districts?
Yes.
Or other fire service providers? Because economies of scale increase the buying power, some would argue. And for a small department like this, it's tough.
So the answer to the question is yes, that has been explored. Several years ago, I should indicate that the brokers of several of these districts, chiefs got together with the broker, and we looked into doing a cooperative and joining forces with the other fire districts. We quickly learned that state statute says you have to have 5 or more municipalities to enter that cooperative agreement. Well, we did not have it at that time. We don't today either. There have also been other meetings metropolitan-wide with other fire districts to see if we could join forces. There were discussions a year ago. Chief Morley was involved in that. Financially, it wasn't in the district's best interest to go that route at that time. So we are exploring all options.
Mr. Francis, so is there something that we as the Board of County Commissioners could do to expedite or support that effort involving other governmental entities or the state legislature?
I would say at this point, we're kind of in a wait and see mode. You know, the desired outcome would be if it makes sense for the district to come under the county's umbrella, there wouldn't be a need for that. However, I think we need to keep all options open, which may include legislative options.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Myers, Commissioner Allen Brand has raised her hand.
Okay, Commissioner Allenbrand. Commissioner.
Thank you, Vice Chair Myers. Chief Francis, Chief Morley, I want to thank you for your leadership. I know that you've been trying to work on this the last 5 years of trying to get this done. And just that, trying to work with most of the cities that have their own fire departments, their insurance is under a city. So you have to look at unincorporated areas of where you can partner up. So it is very limited. But I want to thank you for the work that you continue to do on this, both of you, and the advisory board. So I'm in full support.
Thank you, Commissioner Brewer.
Just to follow up to a couple of the comments, Mr. Francis, that you had shared with us. Is it accurate that the other jurisdictions who have their own fire department cities, that typically those employees are under their city insurance? Is that the format of how it works when we think of
Yes.
in Johnson County, those cities in Johnson County?
That is an accurate statement, yes. The city fire departments, generally those employees fall under that city health care.
Okay. Are you able, just at a really high level, to help me understand you have indicated, as you've looked over the last few years to maybe come under the county's employee insurance program, that there's been a insurmountable cost variance? Is there, and I see that Mr. Christensen is standing up, so I don't know.
Brent can
And this
speak
might
to
be
that better
something
than I can.
that needs to be talked about in a more deeper session. I just trying to understand that.
Brent Christensen, Director of Financial Management Administration. The difference between our two plans is that Consolidated Fire District 1 is a fully insured product versus the county is self-funded. So what's important here is not so much the contribution rates or what's contributed, it really comes down to the stop loss. And so there's a higher risk of what would have to be paid out out of pocket from Consolidated Fire District 1, just like the county, if there's more than one high claim expense. And for the county, our limit's $450,000. So we cover the first $450,000. Right now, that could be the possibility for the fire district. Now, if you recall, we used to have Johnson County Parks and Rec under the county's umbrella, but they had enough employees. They had 375 full-time employees, roughly 700 to 800 covered bodies. Blue Cross was okay for us to change our plan document to say they could have a separate plan with a different stop loss. I don't necessarily have that right now, but I'm working on that, okay? So it's not just the funding structure, it's also that they have 80 full-time employees, they have roughly about 150, 160 covered employees. That's not big enough in Blue Cross eyes to have another breakout from the umbrella, but that's what we're also working on. It's not just the funding structure, but it's really the risk. I want to make sure we can cap his risk so it's not at 450, the county's level, it's at something that's more affordable for them. Does that help?
Yes, and more in line with your overall budget. Of
Correct.
what you can,
Yes.
you can absorb. That helps me a lot. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Fass.
Yes, is that typical in fire that you pay 100% for the employees, that the employees don't have to pay anything?
There are several departments that do that. That's been the longstanding tradition of Fire District 1, that they paid 100% of the employee. District 2 did the same. It's part of the benefit package that's been offered historically, and a lot of that is because the fire districts aren't able to pay the same compensation as some of the other districts, and certainly can't with the other municipalities.
So Consolidated Fire 2, they have insurance through IAFF, right?
That is my understanding, yes.
So would that be an option for them too?
That is a possibility that has been discussed. I believe a year ago, costs were looked at in that, but no action was taken at that
So
time.
it's more expensive probably.
Yeah, I can't confirm
Okay.
that. I would think it may be, since it wasn't, since action wasn't taken on it last year.
Are there any other questions from the commission? Commissioner Ashcraft.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to make the motion if you'd like.
Please do.
Please do. I mean, it's your department if you'd rather.
I had offered, but that's
I'm going to go right ahead.
Oh, okay.
Please.
Sitting as a governing body of Johnson County Consolidated Fire District Number 1, I move to approve a contract with Cigna to administer the fire district's health, dental, and vision plans at a cost not to exceed $1,280,000 annually, and principal as the fire district's life insurance carrier at a cost not to exceed $20,000 annually for the term of 1 year, beginning on August 1st, 2026.
Meyer, second. We have a motion and a second to approve this item. Is there any further discussion? If not, clerk, could you please take the roll?
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner Brewer.
Brewer, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And the chair has recused himself.
Thank you. So we have 5 in favor, none against. The motion is approved. Thank you.
Commissioner Myers, thank you so much for that item. We'll go on to number 15. We're still sitting as the Johnson County Consolidated Fire District Number 1 Governing Board. This is consideration of the publication of a proposed budget for Johnson County Consolidated Fire District Number 1, the amount of $25,576,344 for FY 2027. We'll notify the clerk of the proposed intent to exceed the revenue neutral rates for Johnson County Consolidated Fire District 1, as well as the 4 debt service funds, and set a public hearing on Thursday, August 20th, 2026 at 1 o'clock here in the board chambers. Jim Francis still with us for the presentation.
I should add that Chief Morley is here today if there are questions after my PowerPoint presentation. So the fire district has seen a assessed valuation total increase, bringing us up to $1,208,615,729. That was approximately, I believe, around 10 to 11% increase in assessed valuation. The taxes, fees, special projects, wildland deployments, payment in lieu of taxes, and interest income are about $18.5 million. The contracts with Johnson County and Miami County Fire Districts, $659,007. And we'd be starting a cash carryover reserve balance of about 4.8 million. That's slightly over 20%, around 21%, I believe. So total revenues would be 23,725,502. So what's being proposed, and looking at today's mill levy compared to what's being proposed, there would be a slight reduction. Now, this is what's published after pending appeals and exemptions. That's liable to alter a little bit, but it would be a 0.461 reduction for the residents that are in the old District 1 area west of Clare Road. And you can see what today's levy is, 16.275 compared to 15.814. On the District 2 side, east of Clare Road, and I'm saying this because we still have those outstanding bonds with the District 2 side and the District 1. So the tax bills aren't, the only thing that's consistent is the general fund. The total mill levy is a little different between those two sides. On the District 2 side, their current tax bill, total tax bill is 15.019, and we're projecting 14.813 for the publication, which will likely slightly change a little after pending exemptions and appeals. The general fund expenses, what's being planned is a 3% market adjustment for full-time staff. We're doing this to keep the districts midline in county, and I intend to give the board additional information at the August 13th Committee of the Whole. But the goal of the district and the previous fire board was to keep the fire district salaries midline in the middle of the county, not at the bottom, not at the top. This keeps us closer to the midline and off the bottom, if you will. So that's 3% salary increases. And the district has never done a 401A match. When you look at the other municipalities and one other fire district in the county, there is a 401A match. So we are proposing a 1% 401A match to get the district started with that 401A match program. This budget also reflects 3 additional full-time firefighters. This will be the 3rd year of a 3-year plan to add 3 people each year to bolster the staffing that allows us to meet our relief factor for staffing, which would give us 25 people on duty with a minimum of 19. We were at 22 and 19, and we were paying a lot of money in overtime. Virtually every day, someone was working overtime. We have a greater cushion with this budget and will greatly reduce overtime expense. So that's additional 3 other firefighters, and then transition, I think you've already heard about this, transition of the county's fire inspector to the fire district. Now, the fire district really encompasses about 95% of those occupancies in unincorporated Johnson County are within the boundaries of the fire district. The county already has an agreement with the fire district to do inspections at the airport. So this would transition that inspector to full-time at Johnson County. They would also have plan review responsibilities, and partially funding that position would be fees imposed for that service. This budget also includes $425,000 towards truck replacement funding. This year's budget also had $425,000 for truck replacement funding, $339,000 transferred to reserves. And as we talked about a minute ago, the increase for health, dental, vision, and life is $1.3 million. This budget also addresses a lot of capital needs. So we are going to spend a little bit of our reserves on a planned expenditure for some facility upgrades and equipment upgrades that we needed to make. So there's nearly $750,000 in capital improvement items. And then cash forward reserves is slightly over $4 million with total expenditures $23,725,502. As you know, we have a contract with Overland Park for the area that's east of Lackman Road to State Line. We're anticipating that contract will cost, and we pay actual expense on that contract at the end of every quarter, what their actual costs are. We're anticipating that contract will be about $3,775,000. And we have contract revenue with Miami County, with 2 fire districts we serve by contract in Miami County of $509,000. And then agreements with Johnson County for $150,000. And as I indicated, the CIP proposed projects, we have 2 staff vehicle replacements that would be replacing 7-year-old vehicles, including trade-ins, updated water rescue equipment, security locks at fire stations, which presently don't exist, alarm system upgrades at fire stations, a lot of interior and exterior projects at the fire station on 183rd Street in Gardner, some equipment upgrades at the Spring Hill Station, and additional upgrades, maintenance-related items from concrete to roof to paint to floor coverings at the station at New Century, totaling $745,000 in CIP items that'll be funded out of the reserves. Again, in summary, 3% salary increases for staff, the startup of a 401A match, which would be funded initially with a 1% cost share for those that participate. There'd be 3 new firefighters. 1 would be placed on each shift, bringing us to 25 personnel on duty with a minimum staffing of 19. Transition of the county's fire inspector, $745,000 CIP funding, $425,000 towards truck replacement fund, $339,000 transferred to reserves. This item was taken to the advisory board on June the 18th. The advisory board unanimously approved the recommendation for this body to approve this budget. I stand for any questions.
Thank you very much, Chief. Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just curious, how are we doing on retention of our firefighters?
I'll let Chief Morley address that. I know the situation has been greatly improved, but I'll let him address that.
It wasn't but a handful of years, Trig Morley, Fire Chief, Johnson County Consolidated Fire District 1. It wasn't but a handful of years ago. We lost about 10% of our workforce. That is drastically reduced. We've lost a few folks. One of the concerns that we have now is we're starting to get high in tenure with several folks. So we have had 3 folks leave recently that were all retirees. And then 1 young man that left to go leave the fire service altogether. But we're not seeing people leave to go work for other fire service organizations. So it has improved significantly. We attribute that to the culture, working on pay, and introducing additional benefits.
Thank you.
Commissioner Alan Brand.
Thank you, Chair. Chief Morley, Chief Francis, I want to thank you. I've been working with the fire department now going on 5 years, and to watch this change within our fire district is just, I can't thank you enough. And also the citizens of the county and where you serve. I think a lot of it, the 3% increase, salary increase, I applaud you. We have to continue. When I first started working with the fire department, with the staff, they were the lowest paid firefighters. To continue to work on their insurance we need to continue to do that. Having the 401 match, we need to take care of our firefighters. These are the first responders. This is so important. I just, again, want to applaud the Empire Department because I know it takes a team of work, but having that culture there and seeing the change and the firefighters, the comfort level. I mean, it goes everywhere from HR to just the benefits alone and just the environment. I cannot thank you enough. So you have my full support. And this is probably the most detailed budget that I've seen, and I appreciate that as well. So thank you for your service.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Francis, a number of questions. Exceeding the revenue neutral rates, so what would the mill levy have to be to stay within the revenue neutral rate?
I'm going to give you an honest answer. I printed that and it's sitting on my desk, but there's a gentleman here in the audience that knows the answer to that because I was prepared for that question and I didn't bring that document. Ted, do you have that? Where's it at? Okay, to reach revenue neutral, which would be 12.374, we'd have to reduce general fund expenses by $1,539,387. To reach the revenue neutral with new growth of $36,531,804 in assessed valuation, reduction of general fund expenses would have to be $1,037,878. To reach revenue neutral with CPI growth, which is used the 2.4% January, reduce general fund expenses by $1,180,458, and to reach revenue neutral, both with new growth and CPI growth together, expenses with general fund expenses would have to be reduced by $678,950.
Thank you. Yes, you read my mind, so I appreciate that. So I will have a number of questions. I appreciate the presentation, but the question that I would like to have some observation on, at least initially, and maybe more between now and the hearing, is the auspices of consolidating these two districts was that it would, one, improve service, which includes direct customer service as well as firefighter satisfaction and retention, which Chief Morley has mentioned, but the other is the potential cost savings or cost reduction because the two independent departments were on a certain trajectory that was not sustainable. Have you looked at that comparison and how does this budget compare to what had been projected for the two departments if you have that?
Commissioner, very good question. I can tell you that Chief Morley and I are actively working on that. And we anticipate at the August 13th Committee of the Whole, we will have detailed information for you. Here's what I can tell you for your short answer. This relationship really started prior to 2021. It was a 2 or 3 year plan prior to its implementation. The first step was contractual between District 2 and District 1. As you know, the merger didn't occur until this year. So it's been 5 years in the making. The largest cost savings we're seeing in the 22 budget, the contract for service began November 28, 2021. At that time, Fire District 2 reduced they started paying Overland Park for 22 positions and District 1 for 22 positions. Had the district not done that, the district would have been paying for a fire chief, an assistant chief, a deputy chief, 3 captains, and 3 firefighters. So those personnel were reduced or eliminated, if you will, those positions. So there was significant cost savings seen there. District 1 at that time, I think everybody knows here, was somewhat top-heavy on the administrative end. There were a lot of administrative chief officer positions that were eliminated. Now, the good news moving forward is we blended these two departments together. There were a lot of administrative staff positions that were eliminated, but more importantly, there were 9 new firefighters added over this period that we're talking about. So staffing has increased substantially, which is enhancing firefighter safety. And the mill levy has been able to be reduced by about 2 mills since all this started. And we have greater funds in the bank and a plan to replace fleet and to maintain fleet, and employees are paid far better than they were. So it is a big success story. We'll have greater information for you to expand on August 13th.
Well, Mr. Francis, I will support this item. I will have additional questions, but I will highlight that you are seeking or recommending an approximately $500,000 decrease, not quite, but pretty close, and at the same time have a 3% salary increase, adding 3 firefighters, a fire inspector, and that dreadful health, vision, and life insurance, and dreadful just in terms of cost, not in terms of the support for it. So thank you, and I look forward to that conversation.
One other thing I should just expand on, the county has 3 districts now. We are by far have the largest service area. Right now, the district has 78 employees. We anticipate 82 next year if the budget's approved with those proposals. The district serves 220 square miles. I'm not including the Overland Park contract area. That's an additional 36 square miles. The district serves approximately 50,000 people. The Overland Park contract area serves another 8,000 people. So we have a large, very large geographic area that we're covering with 5 of our own staff stations, 2 stations under contract with Overland Park, and Overland Park covers part of it with 2 of their own stations. So, and we're covering 2 of the fastest growing cities in Kansas. So we're having to monitor that constantly. We are looking at where growth projections are going and future station locations as growth does occur. So we're trying to stay on top of that, just to give you a brief update on where we're at.
Thank you.
Commissioner Burr.
Thank you, Chair. And some of the things you highlighted, especially the fact that this is the second year that we're doing the mill levy for the Consolidated Fire District, and it's the second year in a row that you've been able to reduce that mill levy. And also the work you've been doing to work with, collaboratively with other fire districts on addressing some of those kind of like unusual holes of service that appear in other fire districts that they really need to take on. And so I've really appreciated how you've been looking at the whole coverage ecosystem map and making sure that we're not having weird little islands of service that need to be connected with others, and where we can, it makes the most sense. I just had one question, and then I'm happy to make the motion for this, Chair. Under this new consolidated configuration is a new advisory board. How's that going?
It's working very well. We've got great input from the advisory board members. They've been very helpful. And, we've had, 6 meetings probably so far this year, maybe 7. And it is working out very well.
Excellent. And just as a reminder, that advisory board is made up of residents within the service territory of Consolidated Fire District 1.
And it's made up of the city administrators of Gardner, Edgerton, and, Gardner, the mayor of Edgerton, City of Spring Hills administrator, and then the rest are members from the community.
Thank you. And when you're ready, Chair, I'm happy to make the motion.
We'll have it. Go ahead. Thank you.
I move the board sitting as the Johnson County Consolidated Fire District 1 Governing Board authorize the publication of a proposed budget for Johnson County Consolidated Fire District Number 1 in the amount of $25,576,344 for fiscal year 2027. That the fire district notify the county clerk of the proposed intent to exceed the revenue neutral rates for the Johnson County Consolidated Fire District Number 1 General Fund and the 4 debt service funds, FD1 2019B, FD1 2019A, FD2 2015A, H, and FD2 20121A, and that the board set the public hearing on the proposed budget for Thursday, August 20th, 2026 at 1 p.m. in the board chambers.
Allenbrand, second.
So moved by Commissioner Burr, seconded by Commissioner Allenbrand. Any further questions or comments at this time? The only thing that I'll say is, and I appreciate the good conversation and some of the questions that were asked, and more to come. When we come back to discuss this further, context is always helpful. A holistic view, not only at the dollars and cents, but the outcomes and the challenges and the desires of the fire district, whether that be KPIs, whether that be projected growth patterns, whether that be how we're able to hit our goal of keeping people safe, response times, firefighter and paramedic satisfaction. I want to make sure that we're having that holistic conversation and not just the spreadsheet. I think that context is incredibly important and a fair part of a good discussion and eventual vote. So I look forward to that. But Commissioner Burr, a question.
Yeah, just one question on the budget summary. I believe I know the answer, but I want to verify it. Part of the reason that you are working on these trucks replacement reserves and the transfer to reserve fund is, am I correct that over time you've tried to move to a model of being able to purchase equipment outright rather than going into a debt situation?
We've looked at multiple options. Quite frankly, a year ago, we were hopeful that we might be able to pay cash for several trucks. Unfortunately, the price of those trucks, last time I was here, January 22, we ordered $3.5 million worth of trucks. Pumper truck was $800,000. That same truck now, we're looking at $1,250,000. And it's no longer a 12-month delivery. Now we're at about 31-month delivery. So we've had to readjust our plan to replace the fleet. We've looked at lease purchases. We've looked at cash purchase. We've looked at bonds. At this time, and I will be back here in August with a proposal for a couple of fire trucks. We don't know what the answer is. It's probably going to be a combination of all because the trucks won't be here for so long. We would have to know what interest rates are at the time before we would make a decision. So the chief and I are working with the budget office. We're trying to build a schedule and a financial plan. Give us a roadmap on how best to do that. But right now, we don't have a firm answer on that because the time is so far away. We're looking at 3 more budget cycles before we would even receive a truck and have to pay for a truck. And a lot can change then.
Thank you.
All right, without further questions or comments, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion pending.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner Brewer.
Brewer, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
Chairman Kelly.
Aye, that's 6 in favor and none against. Is that consistent with your count?
It is.
Thank you very much, Chief. Appreciate it. Thank you, Chief Morley. At this time, we're going to take a short break, but I just want to give everybody a preview of what's to come. Due to the travel schedules of some of the commissioners who are attending the National Association of Counties, we need to make sure we hit some items in an executive session before others, depending on how quickly we go. So just as a motivator for us up here on the dais. But when we come out, we're going to handle items 18 and 19. Then we're going to have an executive session. So just, I apologize if anybody's here for items 16, 17. I see some people that are here for that. Or for management reports. You're probably not here for commissioner comments, but you're going to hear them anyway. And so thank you for your patience. We're just trying to make sure we can get the business done in the amount of time that we have. So all that being said, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back at about 11:10, then to handle item number 18, followed by item number 19. All right? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are going out of order on the agenda, so thank you for your patience and cooperation. We're going to go now to what's item number 18 listed on the agenda. This is resolution number 083-26, authorizing the sale of internal improvement bond series 2026A for wastewater improvements. Leslie Friedel from Budget and Financial Planning is here to present the item. Welcome back.
Friedel from Budget and Financial Planning, and we are here to set the sale date. This is a best practice to notify the community that we're planning to sell bonds on August 5th. We plan to sell $26.1 million. It's to fund 3 wastewater projects. They're just part of their ongoing infrastructure projects to maintain their wastewater system. There is a short PowerPoint attached. In interest of time, I don't really need to go through it unless there's a desire to. It just really talks about the timeline for the 3 projects, and it's pretty self-explanatory. We are anticipating interest rates of 3.7, which is about what we've come in the last 2 years. But we'll see what happens when sale date happens.
Well, Ms. Friedel, thank you very much. These are wastewater projects throughout the county, Blue River, Mill Creek, and the Belinder Pump Station. And I appreciate you informing us of the anticipated rates. Are there questions from commissioners regarding this notice? If not, how about a motion? Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Chair. I move to approve and adopt resolution number 083-26, authorize the offering for sale of approximately $26,125,000 principal amount of general obligation internal improvement bonds, Series 2026A, the Series 2026A bonds of Johnson County, Kansas for wastewater improvements.
Second.
So moved by Commissioner Myers and seconded by Commissioner Allenbrand. Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Friedel, just for clarification, this is basically a procedural item. This will occur, and then we'll be back in front of the board for any further action?
Yes, so on August 5th, which is a Wednesday, we will sell the bonds, and then we will be back before you on August 6th. And on that day, we will need to take action on both GEO, and then we're also going to do a PPC sale that same day. And we'll need to take action before 10:30 or so that morning on both items.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brewer.
So when you've come before us, thank you for the briefing sheet. It was very informative, and I appreciate the presentation. When you have come before us in the past, usually what's proposed and then what happens, we've had even better than anticipated results, in the bond market. Has there been any changes in that ecosystem that has you concerned at all, or is everything kind of similar to the last time you were out selling bonds?
The market has been a little bit less consistent, I think, with some of the things going on. But our municipal advisor is not concerned at this point and says we'll just continue to monitor it, and we think it will be roughly where we're at today. If things should change, we do have the option to not hold the bond sale and delay it to a later date. We could make that decision.
Thank you.
Further questions, comments, concerns at this time? If not, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner Brewer.
Brewer, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
Chairman Kelly.
Aye, that's 6 in favor, none against. Is that consistent with your count?
It is.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Friedel. And we'll now move on to what was item number 19 on your agenda. This is authorizing the publication of the 2026 proposed budget and setting of a public hearing, and it should be the 2027 budget.
Good morning, Robin Symes with Budget and Financial Planning. Sorry, do you need to read it? My bad. Oh, I can go. Okay, sorry. This item accomplishes 3 actions. It authorizes the publication of the proposed budget at a maximum amount of $1,911,043,781. It also notifies the county clerk of the proposed intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate for the county, library, and park and recreation districts. And it sets a public hearing on the proposed budget for Tuesday, August 25th, 6 o'clock in the evening at the Olathe Conference Center. So just a few highlights. The total estimated county mill levy that we are proposing right now is 24.119 mills. That's actually a 0.011 reduction from the 26 mill levy. However, we know that due to pending exemptions and changes in assessed valuation that occur between now and October, the value that we're estimating to decrease, then we'll increase that mill levy to get us back to the 24.130 flat mill levy compared to 2026. This is a common practice we've done in the past. We try to be conservative, proactive, and make sure that we are getting to the final ending point that the board has recommended. During the budget presentations, the board made one change to the proposed budget where we increased $352,000 with the use of reserves for the facilities energy efficiency measures CIP. I did want to note that there were other administrative adjustments made to the budget between the proposed and the final to set the maximum. There was an increase to transfers to reflect proper accounting for GASB standards, but these do not impact actual spending. And at the time of the proposed budget, we also did not have our final cost allocation model. So there were increases to cost allocations and outside funds. But as a reminder, cost allocation is a reporting tool to show the full cost of programs, including overhead. It's a method to distribute indirect costs to the departments that benefit from shared services. This also does not impact actual spending, but is a reporting tool. And as a reminder, this action does not approve the budget. It only sets the maximum expenditure for publication, and we're set right now to adopt the budget on September 3rd. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Well, Robin, thank you very much to you and your team for the months of work and the conversations that we have had regarding the budget here. I appreciate the continuous work that we do identifying opportunities, and thanks so much to the county manager as well for her diligent work and her team's diligent work with us on this budget process. Questions or comments from commissioners at this time? Commissioner Brewer.
Thank you, Chair. So in effect, what we're proposing today, and even with some of those considerations that are in-kind cost and gap financing adjustments, we're really looking at, for all intents and purposes, a relatively flat budget from the year before, less
Correct.
than
Like a
around the
0.03% or 0.3%.
change.
Yes.
0.03% change over previous years. I do appreciate during the budget process that consideration of listening to community concerns around rising costs, the prioritization of public safety expenditures and those expenditures that are in line with where resident survey results have really leaned into on what the expectations or the needs of the community are. So just wanted to acknowledge the work of your department and of all the departments in coming forward with where we were able to find efficiencies, where we were able to maintain services, and where we were able to make sure that we were maintaining this a level of services that many of our residents expect, but also require, especially in that public safety area. So thank you.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A few questions, Ms. Sims. The overall budget increase is, as you said, I think 0.37%.
Correct.
So looking at that number, I'm struggling a little bit because, as I understand it, the ad valorem increase is between 4% and 5%, and wastewater is 5%. They're fairly significant components of the budget. So what's the offset that makes the overall budget look relatively flat?
Yes, so there were several things that occurred as we went from the prior year's budget to this year. The main one, at least in the general fund, is Public Safety Sales Tax 3. That sunsets in March of 2027, and so we are making the final payment. However, any remainder of that would fall off, and so that decreases that expenditure. Wastewater, sewer, repair, SRCFP, let's say that. It also has dropped significantly. Again, there's fluctuations with bond proceeds and bond payments and how we're issuing debt, and so that has decreased as well. And then we also have other areas that have lowered their expenditures. We talked about corrections. They're lowering about 1.6 million, and that's due to some of the changes that we've made with our service modifications. Airport has lower expenditure authority just due to change in capital projects, doing less capital projects budgeted this year compared to last year. And then there is a little bit of offset. Park and Recreation, they do have an increase to their budget due to use of reserves and one-time capital needs. And so between those fluctuations, then that gets us to where we're pretty much even.
Okay. So, question that Mr. Francis anticipated well. I was going to ask you the same. What would the mill levy and dollar amount have to be if we were to obtain revenue neutral?
So a revenue neutral rate, sorry, I should have brought my glasses. If for a county with new growth, we would actually have to reduce 9.6 million. Currently, right now, for a full revenue neutral, to meet the full revenue neutral rate, it would be 14.5 million for the county, and then it would be 2.5 million for parks and 2.7 million for the library. However, with the new growth, we would have only had to reduce 9.6 million for county, 1.7 million for parks, and then 1.8 million for the library.
Okay.
If we just look at CPI, and I actually looked at June CPI, which is 3.8%, because that's again when we got our clerk information, so I'd assume it would be based on that. We would actually only have to reduce 3.3 million for the county, 582,000 for parks, and 737,000 for the library. What's interesting to look at is if you were to look at if we were able to use new growth plus CPI, we actually have, our property taxes actually increased less than that number would be. And so if the calculation were CPI plus new growth, we would have actually been able to levy an additional 1.5 million in property tax if the formula was based on that for the county.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Brewer, or I'm sorry, Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Chair. Well, Director Sines, again, thank you for all the work that you've done up to this point, and your whole staff. Everything that's being presented is well done. Chair, I wanted to let you know I have a motion when you're ready.
Why don't you go ahead with the motion?
Thank you, Chair. I move that the board authorize the publication of a proposed budget for Johnson County government in the amount of $1,911,043,781 for the fiscal year 2027, based upon the determinations made by the board in its work sessions, that the board notify the county clerk of the proposed intent to exceed the revenue neutral rates for the county, library, and Parks and Recreation taxing districts, and that the board set the public hearing on the proposed budget for Tuesday, August 25th, 2026 at 6 p.m. at the Olathe Conference Center, 10401 South Ridgeview Road, Olathe, Kansas, 66061.
Brewer, second.
So moved by Commissioner Myers and seconded by Commissioner Brewers. Ms. Symes, I wanted to ask you a question because you had mentioned about the library utilizing reserves. We're also utilizing some reserves, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the discretionary amount of the reserves that we have continue to be spent down on an annual basis. Can you identify in here for me the reserves and just remind us how that's calculated?
Yeah, for example, the general fund reserves, we've actually decreased in the 2027 budget by about 6% or 14 million. And so our reserves are actually going down in a dollar amount for this year. And that's again, due to the public safety, that using that reserve, and then the public safety 3, those reserves are going down, but then also utilizing our reserves for one-time needs. And just one other thing to point out, as we look at reserves, we really follow the Government Finance Officers Association recommendations. They're a professional organization that provides best practice guidance to local governments and local financial officials. And their guidance is to actually use revenue as a percent when you are looking at your reserve. So the reserves as a percent of revenue is our standard, and that's what we currently use to follow, again, those recommendations by that organization.
Thank you. Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, Mr. Chairman, Historically, this is a procedural action, but for all intents and purposes, it will be the budget that we eventually will have to adopt. And Mr. Chairman, my concerns are not new. I've expressed this before. I worry about the value proposition, even though I will give staff credit. They have made some progress in terms of analyzing and making substantive reductions to help address the budgetary issues we face. But I still would say we need to look at how we obtain that sweet spot between efficiency and quality, and based on outcome metrics. And while we have made progress, I find a lot more is needed and a lot more is wanting. So my vote will reflect that concern.
Commissioner Brewer.
Thank you, Chair. It was brought up earlier in the conversation, so I just want to make sure that, because I get a number of residents reaching out on this particular question, when we were describing what revenue neutral is when you look at new growth, and what revenue neutral is when you look at new growth and the prevailing CPI. Today's statute doesn't look at new growth, nor does it look at CPI. It simply looks at the bottom line dollar amount. And if you were to change your dollar amount of your budget from one year to another, even by $1, that makes you outside of revenue neutral. I asked this, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
The reason I ask this is because the majority of outreach I get from residents looks at this as a growing and thriving community and doesn't understand why that growth and increase in activity doesn't result in flat or lower impact for themselves. In other words, our ability to be revenue neutral. But that's not how the statute's written. It does not currently reflect if a community is growing and thriving and looking at revenue neutral from that lens. Is that correct?
That's correct. If you have new housing development, if you expand to other areas of the county, then that statute almost implies that you would have to reduce current services to then serve those expanding areas as well.
I appreciate that. And then the other question I'll get quite often from residents is looking at prevailing CPI and how we are accommodating that. And so that's why we look at if a level playing field is today plus growth and then CPI, that's how you look at, are you addressing your budgetary needs at the rate of your consumer price index, as I might be addressing things that impact me in my own household budget.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Commissioner Frask?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So there is no new property tax funded FTEs in this budget, correct?
In the county taxing district, there are in library and parks.
And so the percent of our budget that is property tax, when I met with you, understanding the same today, the same percentage as it was, 10 years ago. Our percentage of our budget funded by property tax hasn't skyrocketed.
Correct. If you were to look at the percent of property tax compared to our budget, say in 2016, 2017, today the percent of property tax compared to our budget is the same.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'll save my comments. I know you're trying to move the meeting along, so I'll wait until the next meeting.
Well, I appreciate that and appreciate the good discussion. More to come here. Again, this is the publication of the proposed budget. This sets a maximum amount. If there are motions to make reductions, we've heard conversations throughout the last 6 months, but I don't want to preclude anybody if they have real suggestions about how we're going to cut services or positions, bring them to the table. Let's have an honest, substantive conversation about it. I'm confident that we are doing our diligence, and I appreciate the work that's been done by the commissioners and staff to balance the not only fiscal responsibility, but the operational necessity and desires of the community. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of that. So I look forward to continued discussions if they happen. But with that, not seeing further questions, I'll ask the clerk to call a roll on the motion pending.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner Brewer.
Brewer, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
No.
Commissioner Allen Brand.
Allen Brand, aye.
Chairman Kelly.
Aye, it's 5 in favor and 1 against. Is that consistent with the count?
It is.
Very good. Thank you very much. All right. At this time, we are going to hear a motion for an executive session from Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Chair. I move that the board recess its open meeting and convene an executive session at 11:38 for a total of 30 minutes for the proposed under KSA 75-4319B2 of consultation with legal counsel, which would be privileged in the attorney-client relationship to discuss pending litigation involving Johnson County Planning, Housing, and Community Development Department, and to reconvene in this open session in the room at approximately, what is that?
12:08.
12:08 PM. The county manager, deputy county manager, assistant county manager Darren Liker, human resource director Kayla Holloway, director of planning, housing, and community development department, and chief counsel will attend a discussion relating to pending litigation.
Allen Brand, second.
So moved by Commissioner Myers, seconded by Commissioner Allen Brand. Would the clerk call the roll on the motion, please?
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner Brewer.
Brewer, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen Brand.
Allen Brand, aye.
Chairman Kelly.
Aye, that is 6 in favor and 9 against. Is that consistent with the count?
It is.
All right, we'll be in recess, and we thank everybody for their patience. All right, we are back on the record out of an executive session, and this time we'll hear a motion from Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Chair. I move to authorize the Chief Counsel to take the necessary steps to settle a pending employment matter involving the County Planning, Housing, and Community Development Program in the amount of $250,000 and to authorize the Chair to execute any documents necessary to complete the settlement.
Alan Brand, second.
So moved by Commissioner Myers, seconded by Commissioner Allenbrand. Would the clerk call the roll on the pending motion?
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner Brewer.
Brewer, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
No?
Commissioner Allen Brand.
Alan Brand, aye.
Chairman Kelly.
Aye, that's 5 in favor and 1 against. Is that consistent with your count?
It is.
Very good. All right, so since we've been a little piecemeal on the schedule, we are going to move back at this time to item number 16. This is the consideration of approval of project authority increase for the Johnson County Airport Executive Annual Run-Up Pad Project, a local share. I believe Josh is going to handle this one. Josh Schoenhofer from Airport in lieu of Mr. Brian Johnson. Josh, welcome back.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Kelly, Commissioners. I'm Josh Schoenhofer with the Johnson County Airport Commission. Today, we are requesting approval of a project authority increase of $444,595, along with a reallocation and use of reserves in the same amount for the Johnson County Executive Airport Run-Up Pad project. This increase will be funded through the Airport Enterprise Reserve Fund. The project was competitively bid, and the Airport Commission approved the award to Clarkson Construction and recommended approval of the increase on June 24th, 2026. We have an anticipated completion for this project of 2026, so this calendar year's construction season. Much of the background on the run-up pad is covered within the briefing sheet, so I'm just going to go ahead and highlight a few additional points. As many of you know, the Airport Commission, working closely with the FAA and KDOT, has nearly completed a comprehensive rebuild of the Johnson County Executive Airport over the last several years. Runway 1836 was rebuilt, taxiways Alpha and Bravo reconstructed with redesigned connectors to improve traffic flow safety, new fencing and gates, modernized electrical vault now supports safer operations for staff and vendors, and hangars that were beyond their service life have been replaced. This run-up pad is one of the last remaining functional safety improvements on our priority list. It represents a catch-up on current aviation safety best practices and was identified collaboratively by staff in the FAA. The FAA does consider this a priority safety project. For the funding, the 2026 to 2030 airport CIP as presented to the Airport Commission in January of 2025 included $150,000 as the local match placeholder for BOCC approval. In November 2025, the FAA programmed a $1.45 million grant for the project based on engineer and FAA estimates. That resulted in a total project amount of $1.6 million. Now, after the competitive procurement process, the total project is just over $2.044 million versus the original $1.62 million. And that amount creates the delta between the original and the current, which is $445,000 approximately, and that's what we're asking for in additional authority today. Staff, airport staff, the Airport Commission, and the FAA all support moving forward with this project. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time, and I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions at this time? Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Schoenhofer, a couple of questions. Approximately $450,000 for this safety improvement. Of all the safety improvements that could be performed at Executive, or for that matter, in the entire system, why is this the priority it is now?
So this is one of the remaining few, as I said, at the Johnson County Executive Airport. Generally, when we receive FAA dollars, priority projects are runways and taxiways. So for this particular project, the FAA had additional discretionary funds. So they've been able to provide that to this project, which we probably won't see again in the future because this doesn't raise to the level. This is essentially an apron project. So it doesn't fall within their runway and taxiway kind of priority list.
Okay, so it's a safety project that will help with queuing to allow traffic to move more freely or safely. So will it have any impact on potential landing fees that the airport might charge in the future?
That's not been considered at this time with this project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you and to Mr. Johnson for meeting with me this week to discuss this project. And my understanding from our meeting is not only, I think back in 2020, early 2025 is when your commission took action on submitting for this grant. And some of it was at the prompting of the FAA because this is a priority for them, especially because right now where you're doing some of your pre-prep and some of your activity that would be done on this pad are being done in areas that could be pose a safety risk for those around. And so this is addressing a safety, but when the FAA is involved, not only is it being able to align with your priorities and their priorities, but they actually pretty much direct where this landing pad has to be or where this run-up pad has to be on placement on your property. So there's not a lot of wiggle room, so to speak, on that as well. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes. They have their FAA specifications, so that drives this.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing further questions at this time. Is there a motion, Commissioner Burr?
Yes, I'll make the motion. I move to authorize a project authority increase for the Johnson County Airport Commission, JCAC Executive Airport Run-Up Pad Project, local share of $444,595, and for the reallocation and use of additional airport fund reserve funds in the amount of $444,595 for an amount not to exceed $594,595.
Myers,
Friend,
second.
second.
Moved by Commissioner Burr, seconded by Commissioner Myers. Any further discussion on this item? If not,
Please.
with the
I
clerk.
say-
Commissioner
Chair.
Allenbrand, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Chair, I'm not going to say anything at this time, but maybe I need to do something different. I keep putting my hand up to speak, and either you're not seeing it or I could text Megan. Just let me know what works best.
Text
Thank
Megan
you.
or me, and we'll make sure we get you called upon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Now, not seeing or hearing further comment, and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner Brewer.
Brewer, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen Brand.
Allenbrand, aye.
Chairman Kelly.
Aye, that's 6 in favor, none against. Is that consistent with your count?
It is.
Very good. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you very much.
At this time, we need to move to the PBC meeting while everyone is still here. So we're going to allow the clerk a chance to change the technology. It'll be very brief. And we'll then come back to this meeting at the conclusion of the PBC meeting. So this meeting is in recess.
So 17 is.
We're going to